This is E&P Reports, a service of Editor and Publisher Magazine. Since 1884, the authoritative voice of news publishing. And brought to you this week by Voice, a new social media network that puts humans and creators first. Voice is free from bots and shady algorithms. They reward their communities for the content they create. Get early access now by signing up at voice.com/join. That's voice.com/join. And greetings once again, Mike Blinder, publisher of E&P Magazine. And if you haven't heard of Trib Total Media, you're going to get an immersion in the next 30 minutes as I chat with their CEO, Jennifer Wolfe-Bertetto. Now, Jennifer has been with that company for almost 17 years, started as an ad rep in 1998. After 10 years on the street, became the retail ad director. A few years later, promoted to head of sales. And for the last almost 5, 6, 7 years, has been chief operating officer. Now, Trib Total Media still prints hundreds of thousands of publications each week. Trib Total Media employs hundreds of employees. Trib Total Media has 4 offices around the Pittsburgh area, and Trib Total Media has a full functioning high-level agency. I didn't want to say digital agency, a real agency that does everything: branding, storytelling, and of course, provides all the digital services necessary for their own advertisers and for the multimedia sales force as well. The company is growing, the company is flourishing, and did pretty well in December. Even with COVID, it came close to 90% of the previous year's revenue. If you want to hear a real winner in the industry, stick around, because I'm going to go one-on-one now with Trib Total Media's CEO, Jennifer Bertetto. Well, Jennifer, it's good to see you, at least virtually, on E&P
You as
Reports. I know you're in the city of Pittsburgh, great city. Used to fly through there in the old days when U.S. Air actually took your airport seriously. And
we were a hub.
You were a hub. I found out my little girl, I know I'm going off on a tangent, my little girl was going to be a little girl remember Terminal C where where the small commuters were coming out? And I just remember the spot I was standing. My wife called me saying, "It's a girl." And you guys got, then Delta, no, it wasn't, U.S. Air basically just merged with American, and that was it, right? And you lost the hub.
We're no longer a hub, so we have many fewer flights going through Pittsburgh now, unfortunately.
Still a beautiful airport, great city.
It is.
Problem I always had is all the clients I ever worked with besides Trib Total Media. You were one of my first. I don't know if you know this, but I did a workshop for 300 advertisers just when PNC Park opened. And those were the days of Ed Cost. I know he's still with you, right? And
he is. He absolutely is. He's in charge of our fulfillment now at our agency, 535 Media. And I was the sales rep back then on that very team.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that, you moved around a lot in this industry. I'm kidding. You've spent almost 17 years at the same place. You started as a sales rep in 1998. That's when we didn't even know what the internet was. And then you became a retail advertising sales manager. Then you became executive director of sales and marketing. Then you became VP and chief operating officer. So you've been all over the industry. I'm just kidding. You're one of the few.
I'm coming up on 6 years in this role in about a week. And it's interesting. So when you say no one even really knew what the internet was going to be back in 1998, I actually found my job with the Trib online.
You're kidding.
And the woman who interviewed me, her name was Karen McElhatton. She did not ask me her standard question, which was, how did you hear about us? And she told me later if she had, and I had said the internet, I would have immediately been disqualified because any answer other than in the paper was wrong. So I'm glad she didn't ask that question, needless to say.
Well, for those of you that are viewing this and listening to this, because we do this both in video and podcast, may not know exactly who Trib Total Media is. I mean, we go way back, and I visited there a number over the years and worked with you guys. Love you. You are kind of in like a second newspaper in a market, correct? I mean, it's a competitive newspaper market. Why don't you describe your footprint and what you publish and who you guys are, if you don't mind?
Sure. So Trib Total Media was actually, it became the second newspaper in the Pittsburgh market in 1992 when there was a strike with the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette and the Pittsburgh Press. Obviously, we all know how that ended, and the Post-Gazette ended up being the only remaining paper of those two entities in 1992. But the Trib, during the strike, had come in. It had basically taken our paper from the neighboring county and just changed the masthead, threw Pittsburgh on it, and the rest is history. So for about 24 years, we had a 7-day-a-week printed edition in the Pittsburgh market, and we stopped printing in December of 2016. So now we are digital only. You can reach us two different ways in Allegheny County, through pghtrib.com and then through our flagship website, triblive.com. And what has remained from that, we have two editions of our product, 7 days a week currently. One is just Tribune Review, that's our Westmoreland County edition, and then Tribune Review Valley News Dispatch, which is in the Alley-Kiski Valley of the Pittsburgh region. So it's just a little bit outside of the Pittsburgh metro. It's about a 20-minute drive where our headquarters is now to downtown Pittsburgh. We also have 13 weekly publications in the market. The majority of those are in Allegheny County, which is where the Post-Gazette resides, obviously. So the 13 weeklies are direct mail to every single person in a zip code. So they are full saturation mail, contented weekly products.
The websites that are associated with those weeklies then are open. They're not metered or shut down in any way. Where are you guys on that? Are all of your websites wide open right now?
They are. They absolutely are. To be honest, though, we are looking at a couple of different models moving into late 2021 and 2022. So, the one thing that we learned, I think all of us learned through the pandemic, was the one thing we could count on were the subscriber revenues. At a time when a lot of our advertising customers obviously have been pulling back or not advertising at all. So, I've realized it's become imperative to find some way to make that print subscription more valuable to those print readers. So we're looking at a model, and, it's not a certainty that it will happen, but something like they have with the Chronicle in San Francisco. So there could be a paid Trib Live moving forward, as well as a free version. Our history is really rooted. We have a unique ownership structure. So our ownership structure is we are governed by a trust left by our late owner, Richard Mellon Scaife. And so, the primary responsibility we have as trustees is to take care of the employees of the Tribune Review, which, honestly gives me just about the best job in the world when you get to be the CEO and your main charge is to take care of the people working, with you each day. But beyond that, he had a passion for journalism and a passion for providing information to the community, regardless of their financial ability to pay for that content. So we have done our best to really be true to that mission since he passed. He's passed almost 7 years ago. So there's a balance there between our history and frankly, our ownership. Being a trust, and then also making sure that we're bringing in enough revenue to fund our companies moving forward.
Well, you've always been a very forward-thinking digital company. You were doing things back in 2000, 2002, 2003. The industry's always had an eye on you guys. I mean, full disclosure, we're sharing a common platform together. I use OneCount. Yeah, right. And that's a very sophisticated program. You guys were ahead of the game and you always said, okay, we understand the need for reader revenue, but first let's figure out who our darn readers are, right? I mean, and so you're when I mean by this OneCount, and similar, I should give some credit. There's other companies out there. Town News now is doing IQ Audience Plus, where you're understanding your readership and where they are and what they're doing. How is that going for you? So
it's interesting. Very early on, we were digitally focused and we were definitely ahead of the curve. But then, probably around 2004, 2005, our late publisher decided that he did not want to ever talk about the website or anything digital. So it really got to the point that on the budget and the daily budget, you did not talk about the web. So by the time I moved into this position in 2015, we were woefully behind. So we lost about a decade. We've made a lot of progress under Ed Koss leadership, and then it was all lost. So we were really starting from scratch. And we worked with some of the best in the business, of course, to try to figure out what does our audience want. What do we need to do to be a digital first audience or a digital first company? And then how do we learn about our audience? So One Count was the first step in that process. But interestingly, we have an investment in a company called MeSearch, which is an artificial intelligence program that was based off of the Knowledge Kiosk, which is one of the first artificial intelligence programs known to man, right, from Carnegie Mellon University. So actually, our own technology now, which we are beta testing on our Neighborhood News Network, does a lot of that data analysis for us. So we're anxious to see where it all goes. I mean, where it's become challenging right now is it is able to collect so much data that we don't have the people available to analyze it in a way that's meaningful. So now we're working on building out that user interface that for smaller publishers, because ultimately this is something we hope to take to market, but we want to build out that interface so smaller publishers like us don't need to invest in a gigantic research and analytics department to figure out what they should be doing, because it's just so cost prohibitive.
It is. It's always nice to have the numbers, but if you don't have the people to unpack them and understand them, that's my challenge. And I'm getting old. I start looking at this and go, oh my God. It's why I bring in smart people like Pete Conti and others that can figure it all out, and then sit around and stay up all night and tell me. But it's neat to know that print subscribers habit as compared to if they're also on the internet and on the email database. Every email open is critical. What are they opening and why?
Exactly.
So let's get into that. Your footprint now, total print circulation. Just give me the ballpark number. How many are you printing now in a week? What do you
or including our weeklies and our dailies?
Okay,
so we're at about 250,000 households a week with contented products, and then about another 100,000 with a shopper.
So you're printing a lot.
We are.
You got a lot of ink running through there and a lot of paper, right?
We're one of the largest printers in this region, and that's even after, unfortunately, with COVID. One of the first casualties we had as an organization was our largest commercial print client decided after 150 years that they were just done. They were not even going to stay in for the digital game moving forward. So we did eliminate our second shift of press, all production personnel. So we're on 2 shifts now, 7 days a week. But even still, we're one of the largest printers in the region.
And you do a lot of commercial printing, if I remember correctly.
We do. Yeah. We do. I mean, obviously, we do a lot of our own printing, and that takes up a lot of our time. But yes, we have a fair amount of commercial accounts too.
All right. So digital, you gave me the digital reach too, right? I mean, what's your digital reach right now combined?
So our digital reach is really amazing right now. So we average about 27 million page views a month through Trib Live, and usually around 5 million unique visitors each month.
So you're making a pretty penny just on programmatic. I mean, with those,
we are.
You got a lot of page views. You're a major player with 27 million.
Yes, although we saw a pretty significant dip in programmatic, like everyone else did in 2020. We're starting to see a little bit of a rebound late in 2020. So November and December looked a little bit better on the CPMs, but they were very paltry for the better part of the year, unfortunately.
Well, it's still better than a poke in the eye with a sharp stick, if you think about it, right? All right. What about your social media footprint? What do you got combined?
So, I'm sorry?
I mean, just the whole company. How much you got on Twitter? How much you got on Facebook? Where are you guys out in social media right now? So
on Facebook, we're at about 108,000 followers. And on Twitter, it's around 85,000.
All right.
So interestingly, we do not, and those are just our brand names. Those don't include each of our writers' Twitter accounts, because that would become a pretty large number. But we have a very small percentage of our total traffic that comes from social, which I think has been both a blessing and a curse. But I do think it's a blessing in the sense that we aren't relying upon it. So only about 8% of our traffic is coming from social media. So, a lot of our traffic still is organic. The majority of it is still organic, about 55%, followed then by search. But, social media is down towards the bottom for us.
How important is email? I mean, are you pulling, how big is your email database right now?
So our email database is about 114,000 people that get our daily headlines and our breaking news. Newsletters are a big strategy moving forward. We have about 15 newsletters right now that we publish, and we're hoping to get that to around 40 by the end of this year. So that's going to become a really key metric for us to grow as we move through 2021.
What about us? Okay, and how large is the staff? How many people are you employing right now?
So on the Trib side, we have about 270. And then on the 535 Media, which is our digital marketing agency, we have about 40.
All right. And in full disclosure, 535 Media is an Emp advertiser. You represent some big accounts that.
Yes, we do.
And I know the team there. How important is that? I mean, you really developed an agency. I mean, this is not just.
We did.
You're not just, marketing digital services. You're taking over companies and working with them to create stories, to create their brand. This is a big concern. How's it going with 535?
So it's going quite well. We just made some changes at the beginning of this year. We broke off our publisher services fulfillment team that is basically working with TTM and other small publishers in our region to focus on the smaller dollar accounts because, just like in print advertising, the small accounts take up just as much time as the big accounts do.
Tell me about it.
So we've separated the group. So we have specialists, and now we have an agency only team that sells to direct brands. Yeah. We represent a lot of financial institutions, a lot of colleges and universities. We did double our revenue in 2020 versus 2019. We expect to do the same this year as well. And the whole purpose behind 535 Media was not, this desire to, be in the agency space necessarily. It was more, the recognition that there was money available there, that every company in the world needs marketing services digitally of some sort. And if we could do it and be best in class, this could be something that could ultimately fund our journalism mission. So every investment that we make, whether we're just a joint venture or it's an affiliate like 535, all of those investments are made with the mindset of making money to fund journalism long term, so that we're always diversified in our revenue streams.
Now, right now, you've got a bunch of people who are mad at you because they started digital agencies and they're not making money with it. How they're outsourcing so much that every dollar they take in is costing them 50% just to create, fulfill, and then you got to pay the commissions and everything else that goes around it, office expenses and everything. You get to a point where you go, there's nothing on the table for me. Your model from the start was not to farm a lot of this out, right? You're doing a lot of the fulfillment on your own, correct? You do.
We do. Yeah. And that's been its own challenge because there's a big training need there for everyone on the fulfillment team. That's just not, you can't just find people on the street and have them sit in those seats and have campaigns perform well. So we started, we just have built it slowly. We sought out the experts in social, experts in, Google and brought them in-house so that they could immediately start making an impact on the company, but also then train other people. And interestingly, we did something I thought that was kind of novel with our ad services department. So, like so many publishers in America right now, our ad volumes for print have declined.
Of course.
But what we decided to do with our ad services team was get them all Google certified and teach them how to run campaigns for search. So they're all cross-trained. Our ad services.
These are the ad service traditional team guys that just built print ads.
Correct.
You forced them into the digital. They're all Google Ads certified.
They are.
Did you do that on your own? Did you do it through the LMA? What did you do?
No, we did that on our own. It didn't happen, but we had a campaign that was around $7 million that we had an RFP out for that we felt pretty good about getting. A lot of it was in search. So we we realized, well, we have all of these people sitting in our ad services department. They're a
not?
little bit underutilized right now. Why don't we teach them a new skill? So it's been a great way to keep them engaged, but grow their skill sets too, so they can grow with the company.
Does the traditional sales force, I don't want to call them that, your multimedia sellers, what do you call them? Is that the right term? Or
we've changed it a few times. I think we're at multimedia marketing consultants at this point.
All right, so
I think that's the official title.
Your street fighters who are knocking on doors, let's call them those, not your digital specialist team over it. They can then find a client that might need the agency, correct? Mm-hmm. Will they turn it completely over, get some kind of a spiff? How are you coordinating all of this where you have everybody selling everything? What's your model?
So right now, it's a little different moving forward in 2021 than it had been, because now that we have the publisher service for fulfillment at 535, anything the TTM staff sells is just turned over to that group for fulfillment. We do, however, say that if an account is spending more than $5,000 a month with us in digital marketing, that it requires, additional reporting, additional one-on-one time with the client. We feel like at that level, they should have, some ability to interact with our specialists and the very best of the best on our team. So we do have some spending thresholds in place to kind of determine where things go. Prior to this year, it was still very similar in that if TTM sold it, they turned it over to 535 for fulfillment. The 535 sales team actually pursues business that is completely, agnostic from Trib Total Media. So, they do not go after anyone who is our traditional business. They're again, more focusing on corporations and financial institutions and, much larger businesses that honestly sales reps in print just don't think about, except when we maybe have our enterprise section once a year where we're talking about the best businesses and best companies in the region. So, from the start, it wasn't from the start, I take that back. Probably about 2 years into it, we realized we couldn't have everyone calling on the same accounts. And it required some key hires and people for the 535 sales team who were more business development specialists than digital specialists.
Right.
Because we needed people who weren't, intimidated by talking to a CEO for a major corporation in the city.
I mean, I would rather have a hunter and then train them what they're selling than have someone who's just so geeky that they just speak a different language. You need someone to walk in and sit at that bank and sit. I get that. How do you work and when you talk with the multimedia team, do you have embedded digital specialists that work with them? Are you doing a lot of four-legged selling? How do you comp? So
on the Trib side, we have 2 535 employees that go out on four-legged calls that handle the training, that are specialists, in their own right, and could easily be, 535 sales reps if we needed to recast them at some point. So we feel that they have the skill sets that are a little more well-rounded to allow them to train, also to interface with customers, because sometimes they're not the same people that are great trainers that can also go out and talk to clients. We found a couple who do both well. So that is how we do it right now. It's by appointment. We have 4 different offices where our multimedia team sits. And they alternate between each of those locations. So one of them is named Doug, for example. So if Doug is coming to, the office in Sewickley this week on Tuesday, we want to make sure that we have appointments set up for Doug to go out and assist on closing those.
How do you
Obviously, the hope is long-term that the reps can do this without that four-legged assistance. But I joked in 1998 when I was hired here at Trib Total Media, we were just the Tribune Review publishing company then. I did spend 2 weeks training on how to sell digital, and and we're still calling it new. So all these years later, there's still some reluctance on the traditional side of the company to fully embrace all the things that we have to offer digitally.
How do you compensate on that? How do you keep the rep? You're not paying them on total dollars, right? You have to find, they have digital goals they must hit. Do they have a carrot and stick compensation model? What you up to? How do you keep the reps?
No, so we do compensate on total dollars, and then we have a kicker. So if you go beyond prior year by a certain percentage, you get a higher total commission back from $1. So, we've tried just about all of them, all of the different compensation programs at, different times. And I can't say that I found one that I thought really incentivized digital sales in a way that didn't harm the traditional print products.
Wow.
So, we just have more of a philosophy, and we've had this for some time, that, I don't actually care what you sell, but sell the customer something that makes sense for their business. Don't sell them something that maybe makes sense for our business, because it would be helpful to have more digital advertising coming in. That helps our company. But if that isn't the best solution we have available for the client, we shouldn't be selling them.
So the Gatehouse Gannett model of, you got the carrot and stick thing. You got to sell digital. You got to have this much there. You lose it on all. You feel like that's forcing a square peg down a round hole. It's against the solution-based sales process, the consultative process, what have you.
I really do. I mean, we are working with Own Local, so we have some things that, when, hey, you buy a print ad, it's going to appear, it'll get digitized. It'll appear on the local section in Trib Live. And it's $1 more a column inch, or, I think that's roughly what it is. I don't mind things like that, but to wholly tell a sales rep, I now need you to sell $5,000 this month in digital only. I don't care how you do it, just do it. I do think that's counterintuitive to being solution-based. And again, we've tried all of these different compensation models, and I don't feel like any of them have been perfect. But I certainly don't think that, setting goals specific to products has ever been something that has worked for us.
Would you be willing to reveal the percentage of total revenue monthly you're taking in on a digital? And that can include the agencies, for all I care, just because, Gordon Burrell's always throwing those numbers out that the average is this and the average is that. Yeah,
so we're around, I'm doing the math quickly in my head, about 22 to 23% of our revenue is digital.
You're dead on the industry average. I mean, I think 25 is what people are kind of thinking right now. I mean, of course, there are companies that over-report. I call it Hollywood accounting, where they're giving the print away just to show digital growth. I mean, you can't do it that way. You've got to show value across all. All right, so this is great. I mean, you're really and you survived COVID. I mean, you're still in the middle of it, but you got through it. You didn't have to let off too many people, I assume.
No, it was actually very fortunate. Other than our second shift pressmen, most of the employees that we had laid off have been called back, and were called back pretty quickly.
Good.
So we've not had to do any kind of reduction in earnings or reduction in hours, except for 2 weeks in April. We did that, but so we're fortunate. We're holding our own right now. Revenue every month has been ticking up a little bit. We had our best month in December. We were about 88% to prior year, which was the best we had performed. January is not looking quite that good yet on the early trend so far. I think we're 11 days into the month right now. But I'm hopeful, because we did roll out a shop local marketing grant opportunity again for the first quarter of this year. So hopefully we'll start seeing some more revenue.
Excellent.
Kicking in soon.
I was just going to say, plans for 2021 look very aggressive. You're going to be rolling out, it sounds like, some new initiatives. Are you guys growing? Are you buying? Am I allowed to ask? Are you looking to expand?
So, right now, I mean, nothing is on the table for us to buy, but I'd never say never. But it's really not, purchasing other newspaper companies is not something that we've done, but we have been investing regularly in different lines of business since 2015. So we have an esports website that we're an investor of. We have MeSearch that we're an investor of. Clear Day Treatment Centers, which is an opioid treatment clinic in Western Pennsylvania. We are part owner of that. We're part owner of a company called IntelliMed.
Wow.
So we look more for diversification outside of the industry than inside. At one point,
this is all on you, right? You are the CEO. This is you're running it all, correct?
yes, correct.
You have a lot of free time. You must play a lot of golf, right?
I'm a terrible golfer.
No problem. All right. So, the advice now to the struggling, I can't take it anymore paper. I mean, that's thinking of selling out. I mean, there's a lot of, I'm hearing a lot of good news out there now. A lot of, newspapers are surviving. They're finding local ownership. They're getting away from this hedge fundy world we're in. I know a lot of people want to work for you because you're not a company like that. You're investing in the people. You're investing in the editorial. Give me the quick 3 or 4 bullets you would tell the guy right now who's listening to this going, give me something positive, some advice to another CEO or even publisher of a small publication to get through the year.
If they're thinking about leaving, this is definitely not the time to leave. In all the years I've worked in the industry, I think right now these unique challenges that are facing us have been the most motivational to me, perhaps, to try to find that new way forward. So obviously, I think a lot of success is on the people around you. I have invested in new hires, a new chief revenue officer about 2 years ago, general counsel, people that have really made a difference, that brought different skill sets to our company that we were lacking. So, look for what you're missing and try to supplement with really, superstar hires, essentially. I believe in the digital marketing agency. I think that has legs for a lot of publishers if you can wrap your mind around the agency being more than your company's news website, because the real money in digital marketing is not on the homepage of your newspaper. But if you really are willing to embrace everything that is out there and available, you can open up your world to brand new clients that would never talk to a newspaper company, frankly. And like we have, you can use those revenues and those profits to help fuel the growth of your newspaper organization. And also I think that it's important that, we not abandon our readers during this time. So I have been a proponent, and for as long as we are able, we will be a 7-day-a-week newspaper, because I think that when you start removing days of the week from your portfolio, I think we start to lose our base. And again, as I mentioned earlier, I think COVID, if it has taught us anything, it has really taught us the value of those print subscribers, the people that, they were the only revenues we had basically for a couple of months during 2020, and it's significant revenue. So, we will continue to invest in that print product. We will continue to publish 7 days a week as long as it's, financially feasible. And I think that, as an industry, we've become so tunnel vision on what we need to do. And it's, reduce your newsroom, reduce your print days. And I think that we should really be thinking about the opposite. I think somewhere along the line, a lot of publishers have, in their effort to balance their budget or to chase profits, have really abandoned the mission. And I think when you get back to the mission, if you do it well and you are covering the community in a way no one else can, there's a lot of revenue still to be had for us with print subscribers and also digital subscribers down the road. And, finally, I would just say that, I think this is the time where you find out what you're made of as a leader and what your company is made of and how the community views your company. So I think these are exciting times, and this is definitely not the time to give up, if for no other reason than you certainly don't want to sail based on the EBITDA from 2020. So you might as well hang in there and try to improve in 2021 and see if things get a little better for you.
Whatever the multiple winds up being, you might at least want to make sure you've got that cash flow churning. Are you hiring?
Exactly.
If there's there's an under I don't want to say unemployed. In this industry today, there's a lot of underemployed people. You know what I mean? They're working in the wrong place at the wrong time, just not feeling the fire. Trib Total Media makes an investment in there. You got openings right now, don't you, in Pittsburgh? You're hiring.
We do.
Yeah.
We do. And we're hiring in both the agency and for the company. But also beyond that, I've never been one to just say, these are the positions we have open. I think, if you hire the best player available in the draft. So if someone, lands in front of you that has skill sets that you need or you desire, we will go and we'll add that position. And I recognize that's a luxury for us based on the kind of ownership structure that we have, and that not everybody has that ability to do it. But that is my philosophy. And I think it has really helped us in the last couple of years in particular, really bring in some top-notch talent throughout our organization.
Where are they going to find out how they can work with you? I mean, who do they contact?
So tribtotalmedia.com has all of our job listings. That's our company's website. And, also people reach out to me directly. So I can be reached at jbertetto@triblive.com as well.
ERTETTO, right?
Correct.
That is great. We really enjoyed this. This is fun. I love your passion.
Thank you.
Your commitment to, that's whenever someone asks me to speak now, I say, it ain't brain surgery. Just stay in your lane, do the job, right? Serve your readers, serve your advertisers. And we're going to get through this. And I hate to say this, but there's been a benefit through the crisis. We've never had more audience in our history now.
Great.
I mean, I bet you've never had this many readers, whether it's digital or print. I mean, they're there. And there's a pent-up demand now for local content, but also local shopping.
Correct.
And then they need that voice. Those advertisers need that voice right now, that conduit to get their message out. Sounds like you're in the right place. Jennifer, when this is all over, I'm going to fly up there, even though half your airport shut down. I mean, is there still a 9 West in there? I always find it fascinating. Is there still a 9 West in your airport? I think,
I don't know if there is. I haven't been to the airport in almost a year myself because of COVID. So
my last flight was in February to go to Burrell, and I live in Tampa, so it was 30 minutes in the air to go to Miami. It was like, but I'm saying that I'm going to come up there and visit you guys. And it just thanks for your valuable time, and stay healthy, stay well, and the industry needs you. Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you. Have a